Today, I want to make a video that I actually want to make in September. We're going to talk about the history of labor movements in the US. Our struggles today for labor rights really got their start in this country a long time ago, and how we should remember that history and use that as a jumping off point for future strikes and future changes to our current system.
About 75,000 healthcare workers are kicking off a strike.
It's strike.
On strike. 70,000 steelworkers strike for union.
Back in 1886, there was this thing called the Haymarket Affair. There were protests about 12-hour workdays, children having to work, no weekends, 7 days of work, working in factories. There was a lot of abuse of the laborers, and people got fed up and started protesting. The Haymarket in Chicago. Protests broke out, things got violent, someone set off a bomb, people were hurt. So this is editing Maya. I forgot a few key facts. 200,000 workers that protested in a nationwide protest when the Haymarket Affair happened. The protests became violent when someone threw a bomb into the crowd. 4 people died. 70 plus were injured. 100 plus were arrested. 8 police officers died, including one who died from related injuries 2 years later, and 60 police officers were injured. 4 anarchists were hanged as a result. And I just want to read a little bit from how Time summed this up some like 50 years later, in 1938. At 8 o'clock, there had been 3,000 persons on hand, listening to anarchists denounce the brutality of the police and demand an 8-hour day, but 10 were only a few hundred. The mayor, who waited around in expectation of trouble, went home and went to bed. The last speaker finished his talk when the delegation of 180 policemen marched from the station a block away to break up what remained of the meeting. They stopped a short distance from the speaker's wagon as the captain ordered the meeting to disperse, and the speaker cried out that it was a peaceful gathering. A bomb exploded in the police ranks, and it wounded 67 policemen, of whom 7 died. The police opened fire, killing several men and wounding 200. The Haymarket Affair tragedy became part of US history. And this became the Haymarket Massacre. It became a tragedy. This is something that happened in the US a long time ago, and its repercussions are still at play today. They fought for 5-day work week, 2-day weekends, 8 hours a day. Children didn't have to work. These are basic rules that lots of our society still holds today, but not all of it. And those were hard fought for. This day was on May 4th, something worth remembering on May 4th. Star Wars Day really detracts from that. I think there's really more important things, like how we got our labor rights, even though that labor right is just a 9 to 5. This, in part with other movements from back then and later on in history, created what is known as International Workers' Day. Because of this American event, because of American strikes, this became International Workers' Day on May 1st, because we remember those riots in May, we remember those protests in May, and it's kind of strange that in many ways the whole world celebrates that except for the US. One more note, in July of 1958, President Eisenhower signed a declaration making May 1st Loyalty Day. This was so that no one would think that there was any sort of celebration for Workers of the World International Labor Day. So it was a very deliberate choice to bury this part of our history. That's kind of my whole point here, that Labor Day in the US was changed from May 1st to like September 6th, and it became something different. A day for sales, a day for having a barbecue, not a day for remembering the anarchists, the protesters, the children, everyone who made changes to the labor conditions. That Haymarket Affair became associated with anarchy and things that people didn't want to be associated with, so that day was never recognized. But I think it's an important day to remember. The day that was made a national holiday, in part by pressure from the rail strikes that were going later on, was more of a parade, and it wasn't a strike. It wasn't something that made real, lasting change. It was a bit of a celebration, get people to vote for the president. It was to appease the labor unions. So instead we have this kind of Labor Day weekend where people wear white and barbecue, so really bad combination. We forgot about how here in the US, a single day, a single event, that day fundamentally changed labor rights. It changed a global system. It affected the world. It's not something we talk about. It's something that we've forgotten about. Labor rights changed worldwide because of something that happened in the US. We need to honor those people and respect them and thank them There's a lot of rhetoric about not dreaming of labor, about not wanting to work, about the grind of the 9 to 5. But it's important to remember that that's something that was fought for, and that's not something that's always respected. Some corporations, really kind of split hairs. They're like, oh, well, a weekend means 2 days off. So you don't get the weekend off, you get 2 random days off. 5 days a week means 5 days a week per pay period. So as long as I give you your time off, you can work 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row if it works out. And that's not what the Haymarket Affair protesters wanted. They didn't want 5 days off when it's convenient to the company. They didn't want weekends when it worked for the company. They wanted 5 days off and then 2 days off. And yeah, sure, of course, sometimes people have to work the weekends because people go out on the weekends, but we've kind of even lost that in some 9 to 5s. It's usually only governments or other things where people only work this amount. And on the other side of that, our culture of working hard, our workaholic culture has made it popular, has made it commendable, has made it aspirational to work hard and to work more and to not have weekends, to not take vacation. And who is this serving? Because it's not serving our health or ourselves. Some people brag about working 80 hours a week. Why? People fought for the 9 to 5. And people who don't want to work at all, that's fine too, but let's get back to square one. Let's get back to everyone getting 2 days off in a row and not having a culture centered around who works the most. So let's not forget history. We are doomed to repeat it if we forget it. And there's been a lot of strikes lately, the auto workers, nurses. There was just a strike in Vegas with the hotel workers, the Writers Guild, the Actors Guild, Starbucks, Trader Joe's. Let's remember that the US has a legacy of workers' rights, a history of workers' rights. Remember the Haymarket Affair. Remember how anarchists helped you get a weekend. And let's celebrate International Workers' Day. Let's remember that and demand better in our workplaces and think of the US as a leader in changing global systems, at least on a grassroots level, and not just as the laughing stock of the world. A lot of other countries don't really like the US, for good reason and good measure, but I think there's a place to remember our history of activism, our history of change. It's one thing to change American systems, it's another thing to be part of creating an international holiday. I think the more we have of those, the closer we get together. I don't know, Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day is something that Latin America does not celebrate, for example. We had a very different idea of the colonizers who came in. So I think the more holidays we share, the better. And next time you get a weekend off, remember the Haymarket Affair. And next time you clock out, remember the Haymarket Affair. And yeah, ideally we wouldn't work, there would be universal basic income, and the world would be a better place. But there's a lot of people who have to work overtime, have to work 2 or 3 jobs that don't get 2 days off in a row. So this is to them, to those people who are working extra hard. You shouldn't have to. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Maya Pimentel. I cover things about culture, history, in a general broad sense like today. Other days I talk about trans issues, queer issues. Got a lot more videos planned up ahead, and I'm really excited to begin to share that with you guys. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye.